Our next guest, Veronica, on Why I Vaccinate is Wil Cwikiel. He is the superintendent and the principal at Beaver Island Community School. And it's my understanding you met Will at the Hometown Health Hero Award ceremony. So I'm going to kind of let you introduce Will more to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you. I met Will because he received an award and he really just had this incredible accomplishment of getting 85.8% of the residents on Beaver Island vaccinated against COVID. So
Wow.
I wanted to talk to him and I wanted our guests to hear about it. Will, for those people who've not had the pleasure to be a visitor to Beaver Island, can you tell us about Beaver Island?
Sure. Great. First of all, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a huge, back when I was a kid, I grew up listening to WJR, so it's great to be here. Um, so Beaver Island is, it's the hidden gem of the Great Lakes. And a lot of people have heard of Mackinac Island over in the Straits of
Mhm.
Mackinac. Beaver Island is 35 miles off the coast, 35 miles from Charlevoix, in northern Lake Michigan. It's the largest inhabited island in the Great Lakes on the Canadian, or on, I'm sorry, on the U.S. side. The only larger island is Manitoulin Island in the Great Lakes up in Ontario. So it's sort of like a step back in time. People take care of each other. We have about 450 year-round residents. The ferry is a 2.5 hour, 2 hour and 25 minute ride from Charlevoix. It only runs about 7.5 months out of the year. The rest of the year, the only way to and from the island is via airplane. So it's quite remote, but a really special place surrounded by beautiful Lake Michigan. Just a wonderful community to live and to learn.
So when COVID hit, what were you thinking?
Well, when COVID hit, there were two thoughts. One is, oh my goodness, if COVID comes to the island, given how close knit everything is here, it could really sweep through the community. But on the other hand, we thought, well, we're also somewhat isolated from the rest of the world, given the transportation via plane and boat. So there's perhaps are somewhat protected as a result of that. So on both fronts, it was some concern, but we were really happy to be able to come together as a community and a lot of thoughtfulness and care for each other throughout the entire pandemic.
So March of 2020 is when things shut down. When did Beaver Island have its first case?
We had our first case in the summertime. As far as we all know, there were some folks that came across on the ferry, a family that was coming to stay and they got the news of the positive PCR, I guess, while they were on the boat. So they quarantined the entire time while they were here, and then they left on the boat, stayed in their car on the way back. So there were no cases as a result of that. And then we did have a bit of a localized pandemic during deer season, that fall of 2020. We had some folks come over and guys visiting deer camp and ended up infecting, I think, 18 or 20 people in that one weekend. So that was, affectionately referred to as the deer season fiasco. But it really did show people that we were not immune from this and that things could spread very, very quickly, if indeed there was community transmission on the island.
So I know that Anne has questions for you too, and I'm going to turn it over to her. I think the pressing question is how you did it.
Yeah, and it's so nice that you talk about how everyone cares for each other. That seems to maybe be the secret sauce here.
Yeah, it is such a small community, and particularly in the wintertime, when the boat stops running, we have to rely on each other and count on each other. And what I found through the school, the school was a way to bring people together. So regardless of their political views, regardless of their views on vaccinations, I think a lot of people got vaccinated who otherwise wouldn't have, just because they wanted to keep the schools open. We stayed face to face throughout the entire pandemic. Whenever we were allowed to be face to face in school, we were. So
Uh,
that first spring after in March of 2020, of course, we had to close down, but starting in the fall of 20, we stayed open and had face-to-face instruction the whole time. So my message was, hey, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for the kids. The other factor I think is really important is we have a lot of elders on the island, a lot of folks that are in that age group, and people care about them. Even though someone individually might not have been interested in getting vaccinated, they realized that if they could do it and it would help the elders on the island, then they went ahead and did it. So
so, Will, when you had someone who was a little bit resistant or reluctant, what were some of the phrases or what did you say to them? How did you kind of convince them to, hey, help us out?
well, I want to just be real clear that this wasn't just me. We had, the great help and support of the Beaver Island Rural Health Center. An amazing, amazing job by the Health Department of Northwest Michigan. They realized right off the bat that Beaver Island, because of its isolation, particularly when the vaccines were first available, they prioritized getting over here and doing vaccine clinics on the island, and we were able to have those at the school. We were able to get the word out through our parent network. There was a lot of individuals talking to each other. We had folks coming in. Well, my wife's making me come in to get vaccinated. I hate vaccines. I hate shots. Blah 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 blah. But it was that personal touch, people
Yes.
communicating with each other. And I think the other factor, we had lots of volunteers here on the island who were longtime islanders, and they would literally call people up and say, "Hey, we just opened up a vial. We've got 6 more doses or 5 more doses that are going to go to waste if you don't get in here." And they were literally calling people on the phone to get them to the vaccine clinic before the nurses from the health
Wow.
department had to fly off to go back to the mainland.
Wow.
So that personal touch and really keeping politics out of it. It's like, okay,
Sure.
this we don't care who you voted for. We don't, it's all about this is an opportunity to help protect yourself or others.
Yeah.
Um, and that really seemed to work. That personal touch just really
Personal
seemed to
touch.
work.
Will Cwikiel, the superintendent and principal at Beaver Island Community School and a Michigan hometown health hero. Thank you so much for your time. It was really great talking to you and getting your advice on how to deal with COVID.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you so much for all the work that you guys do. And anything I can do to help in the future, please give me a call.
You're listening to Why I Vaccinate. Back right after this.